Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to my Hyperion progression series. I have lost track of which part this is, but it has been a while since I've done an update on my battle mage. I believe the last one I did was sometime in September, and we left off doing some pretty interesting things. The first thing that we did was actually getting this eye patch to 22 star, which is pretty awesome. This gives us one set right now for our pitch boss, and I'm looking forward pretty much every week on this battle mage to see if we can get any other drops. And as of right now, I haven't seen anything too interesting other than a bunch of black hearts. You can see here I actually have a dreamy belt that is currently at 1 star. This is pretty much unusable for quite a while, so I'm really hoping for pretty much any other drop to happen for us. Maybe with the exception of the earrings as well, because the dreamy belt and the earring are in a equally difficult position to use. The first thing that I really wanted to talk about was actually my levels. You can see here, currently I am level 278, which is a pretty big upgrade from the last time that I did an update. I think the last time I showed this character, it was closer to 275 or perhaps 276 even. But thanks to the current event, this Night Troop, we are able to get a lot of extra EXP. Both because we have a bunch of buffs. You can see here I gain about 25% extra EXP from just training normally, and we also have this rune duration and rune EXP buff effect, which gives us a lot of EXP when we activate a rune. On top of that, we do have this hourglass buff. Basically every 2 minutes or so I do get a big increase in EXP. I believe it gives me 400% EXP or something like that. This gives me a lot of training progress. I level up quite quickly. I get a lot more EXP than I usually would. I am slowly just making my way to level 280, which is my main level goal at the moment, because I want to be able to do as much damage as possible to a lot of different bosses. I am starting to do things like Kalos and Kaling, which I'll show you guys in a little bit. You can see here I have actually cleared these bosses at the moment, but that is my main goal. I really wanted to do as much damage as possible to these bosses. My goal by the end of this event is to be able to hit level 280. I think that is a very reasonable goal, although I think I am slightly behind on the pacing. I am quite busy doing other things. I have started picking up a few other projects, which I'll show you guys in a little bit. But mostly I haven't really been training as much as I would like. But hopefully we'll make it to 280 by the end of the event. The nice thing about training to level 280 is that I do get 2 other bonuses. The main thing is my Hexa Matrix has improved by a decent amount. I believe a lot of these have upgrades since the last time I showed them. All of my main skills here are level 10 at least. I have my Origin at 15, and I think at the moment I'm working on my Masteries. I'm leaving this one at 9, and then this one I believe I'm pushing to 29 at the moment. And of course on top of that I did unlock Soul Janus, and it is currently at level 10. This makes it so that my training on my battle mage is a lot more simple. Lets me clear bigger maps, especially now that I'm in Shangri-La. A lot of these maps actually have pretty good kill rates, and having the 2 extra orbs really does help a lot. Unfortunately for battle mage, I don't think I can use Dusk super efficiently, and on top of that I'm actually not that strong, especially in my training gear. So having those 2 extra orbs from Soul Janus helps quite a lot. The second thing that the training a lot gives me is that I do get a lot of money. You can see here I'm currently sitting on a stack of 64 bill. I have spent a decent amount of money over the last couple of weeks, so I'm trying to stop myself from spending so much so that I can work on my arcanes. And that's actually probably the first thing I want to talk about, is actually how my star forcing has gone over the last couple of weeks. First thing I wanted to go through is that my arcanes are in a pretty bad spot. I decided to tap them. They were all sitting at 19 for the longest time, and unfortunately they are spread between 16 and 17 stars. You can see here there's a big gap in my inventory. This is where my old arcanes used to be, and yeah, I have blown up a fair amount of arcanes. I didn't have this recorded. I decided to do this off stream because I just kind of felt lucky. I believe I spent 26 bill to blow up 5 arcanes and then lost 10 stars. Not the greatest idea. Probably should have waited for an event and held off from tapping the arcanes in favor of other things, but that is okay. I only really tapped the arcane because I wanted to show you guys the main gain over the last month or so on this character. If you guys have followed my channel for long enough, you would know that for my battle mage it had been sitting at 21 stars gear for the longest time, and the main reason for that is because I didn't feel like I really needed the damage to clear black mage, which was my goal at the time. I didn't feel like I needed to risk anything to get the damage required for black mage. So what I ended up doing was just leaving everything at 21, but now because I did get the 22 eye patch, and because I was also aiming to go and do grandest bosses including Kalos and Kaling, I really felt like I wanted to contribute more to the parties and do a little bit more damage. So at the end of one of my streams, I decided to try and tap every single one of my 21 stars to see what would happen. This probably in hindsight wasn't the greatest idea because it is very high risk, but also not that high of a reward all things considered. I really did need to hit a lot of 22s for it to be worthwhile. and I started off with the slime ring. This was mostly because I had a lot of slime ring spares, so if it blew up, I felt like I had a good chance of getting it back. Thankfully, the slime ring went on the first try, 21 to 22, and I was just kind of feeling lucky at the time, so I decided to move on to the next item, which was my Carnage treasure, kind of with the same mindset that I had a lot of spares, and I felt like even if it blew up, I always had the option of making more Meister rings, which is about equivalent to the Carnage treasure. Thankfully, this one also went 21 to 22 on the first tap. Realistically, I probably should have just stopped there, but of course I didn't. We moved on to the Twilight Mark, and unfortunately that blew up pretty quickly. I spent some money trying to get it back to 17, and realistically I would safeguard the Twilight Marks. They don't drop super often, and I didn't want to risk anything. However, we still had a bunch of items sitting at 21, so we moved on to the next one. I decided to tap my Superior Earring. Unfortunately, the Superior Earring also blew up, going for 22. And of course I had to repair that and put it back to 17. At this point I am 2 for 2. 2 went to 22, and 2 blew up. I think at this point, I was pretty happy to just stop. I didn't want to risk losing too much damage. I think I started off at about 102 mil combat power at this point. I didn't want to lose too many stars in case I wasn't able to contribute to my Kalos and Kaling party. However, I made a deal with one of my mods. He said that if I had lost too much damage and I ended up not being able to contribute in that particular party, or perhaps I didn't do enough damage to help that party clear, he would find a party for me to run. So in my mind, kind of as a joke originally, I had nothing to lose. So I decided to keep tapping everything. I went next onto the Superior Pendant, which went to 22. I followed it up with my Dom Pendant, which also went to 22. The only items left at this point, left at 21, were my CRA gear and the Superior Ring. I decided to tap the Superior Ring, and then it blew up. Pretty much immediately. With only about 3 bill left, I believe, I decided to try my luck to see what would happen. I took a new Carnage treasure, and I just kept tapping that just to see how far it would go. And eventually, this Carnage treasure actually did go to 21 within 3 bill. I transferred it across by buying a new ring from Golix, and then that Superior Ring also went to 22. Overall, incredibly lucky. I high rolled very hard going from 21 to 22. It was about 50%. Half of them did go to 22 on the original item, and then the others did actually blow up. The biggest high roll was definitely the fact that my Carnage treasure went from 0 to 21 within 3 bill. The transferred Superior Ring did actually go to 22. All this happening within 8 bill is extremely nice. I didn't have to spend too much, although it shouldn't have costed too much anyway because a lot of the items were originally at 21. I just needed to hit that last star. I think I just got lucky that the recovery for the one item that I did end up repairing wasn't too expensive. The Carnage treasure basically streaking to 21. On later separate streams, I did end up 22ing and fixing my Twilight Mark and the Superior Earring, putting me at pretty much all of my items at 22 except the CRA gear. You see here, I even fixed up some of the potentials. I did get a new potential here on my Golix ring. Because I blew up the original one, I had to get the 3 line again, so we're sitting at 27% here. My slime ring fixed its potential, it is a 13, 10, 10. Carnage treasure at 27% here as well. And pretty much all my items that are 22 are also probably 3 lined, but they are missing the little 3% here and there because of the all stat lines. For the Superior Earring was a little bit annoying because I didn't actually have that many fodder, so I decided to tap them directly. And thankfully I did have a bunch of Superior spares, as you guys can see here. And I just tapped it straight on, and it went on maybe the 3rd or 4th earring, I can't remember exactly. But yeah, you can see here, pretty much all of my items that aren't my armor pieces are currently sitting at 22. I did lose the stars, like I said, on my arcanes, but I think these 22s, so just finishing off these items feels really good. And now I can invest all of my money trying to fix my arcanes and try to get those to 22 as well. The main reason why I am not touching my CRA gear is because this character is actually, like I said, running in the grandest bosses. To start off, I've never actually done any of these bosses before on any of my characters, so my Battle Mage is more or less the first time that I've ever tried to do normal Kalos and easy Kaling. I had to learn how to do the mechanics for both of those, and it was a little bit of a struggle. I think in the first week, I did cause us to fail out of normal Kalos once, and maybe Kaling once or twice as well. It was a little bit rough because everybody else in the party was already familiar with the boss, whereas I had to still kind of learn as I went. And it did, like I said, cause us to wipe a few times because I just got hit by too many mechanics, or I died, or something like that. Thankfully, my party has been very patient with me, and they allowed me to kind of learn as we went. And as we got stronger as a party, a few of us did liberate, and like I said, I did improve my star forcing along the way. I didn't get everything to 22 all at the same time. I think we had ran 1 or 2 weeks already before I 22'd my gear, so just in general, all of us made a decent amount of extra damage gains, and we streamlined our Kalos and Kaling runs really nicely. For N Kalos P2, we did a 2-2-2 split, which basically meant that we can more or less cheese the boss. We didn't really have to play the mechanics as long as we didn't fail out any tests, which made the bosses super consistent for us and very easy, minimizing the amount of mechanics that we had to really play. As for Kaling, we did do the cheese on the left side, so then we didn't have to really play P3. We didn't have to play P3 properly, and of course we did also cheese P2 by just bursting out of it. So basically I didn't really have to learn too much as we got stronger as a party, and now we are just consistently clearing both Kalos and Kaling. You can see here we have done it for a few weeks already. You can see I have 7 pieces of Kalos and 6 pieces of Kaling. The reason why we have an extra piece here from Kalos is because we did get these reset tickets from Night Troop. As a party, we decided to reset N Kalos once so far, and on the reset we will reset it. And after the weekly reset, we are most likely going to do Kalos again, putting me on 9. The following week, I will be on 10 pieces, and that will allow me to get my first ever piece of Eternal on my entire account. So I'm super excited for that. I'm slowly just going to work my way and trying to get 3 pieces of Eternal gear. I haven't really fully decided how I'm going to go about star forcing these, but just in general, I'm just excited that I get to play with Eternal pieces for the first time. The last game that I've had recently, as you guys might have noticed, I do have a Ring of Restraint 3. Thanks to the party taking me through with Grandis, I am having a better chance at rings. Normal Kalos, Easy Kaling, and Hard Seren all have the chance of dropping a white ring box, and I'm really hoping for some better rings. I still have a continuous 3 ring here. I actually have 2 of them. Hopefully this will be a continuous 4 at some point, but I'm pretty happy with at least 1 Ring of Restraint. I think this Ring of Restraint 3 does help out in some bosses where we just need a bigger burst. I think, for example, P1 Black Mage, a Ring of Restraint for the first phase is a lot better than a continuous 3, just so that we can burst out, and then I'll just swap back onto the continuous ring afterwards. Speaking of Black Mage, I have been running this boss still, of course. I am on track for January Liberation. I will get the Genesis weapon at the beginning of January, and I've been just doing this boss. As you guys know, I haven't really been doing anything solo for the most part. Ever since my first Black Mage clear, I decided to allow myself to do things in a party, whether it be trading runs in bosses or just joining parties like my Grandis party. This makes things a lot easier for me. I think just soloing Black Mage has already been stressful enough. I don't really want to solo it again. I do duo Black Mage with a friend. This makes the run a lot faster. We clear the boss in basically 15 minutes between the 2 of us. We are minimizing the amount of people that we are blinking for badge with. It's just 2 of us, so basically it's a 50-50. We haven't seen it yet, but it is nice that we have a pretty convenient Black Mage run between 2 of us that we both don't have to worry too much about. After all those gains, all the 22s, and also the losses from blowing up the arcanes, my character has pretty much not moved in combat power. I think I went from 102 to 103, barely going up at all, but at the end of the day, I'm just super happy that a lot of these items are 22, so I don't have to worry about them anymore. For the most part, I don't have to worry about any fodders, and I just need to try to get my arcanes. I am trying to hold as much money as I can for the future Star Forcing event, so then I can actually work on my arcanes. They're looking a little bit spicy because I don't have that many spares, so I might have to go back to rouletting them, but ideally I would like to try to 22 these items. Once I have all these at 22, I can just focus on fixing the potentials and maybe trying to round out some of these pots. I am missing 3 and 6% here and there, but for the most part, they're mostly done. We'll just have to see how that goes. And that is pretty much the main update on my Battle Mage. I'm just, again, slowly working towards level 280 and slowly working towards my Eternal pieces as well. Like I said before, I am on pace for a January Liberation, and I believe at around the same time I should be able to get my second piece from Kalos and my first piece from Kaling. This will put me actually on 3 pieces of Eternal gear and also the Genesis weapon. And like I mentioned, my CRA gear are currently at 21 star, so what I'm most likely going to do is once I get my 3 set of Eternal, I'll just be leaving them at 17 star, which should beat out the CRA gear quite nicely. I know a lot of people prefer to push their Eternal gear a lot further, a lot quicker, but because I'm just trying to make some safe gains at the moment, I'll just leave them at 17 and think about how I want to approach it later on. So that wasn't the only thing that we have made progress on this account. I would actually like to introduce you guys to a new bossing mill on my account here. This is my Pathfinder, and it has only been around on my account for about 2 weeks at this point. It is currently at level 220, and it does solo all the bosses, including normal Lotus and Damien as a bossing mule. After bosses on this character, I do make about 1.3 bill a week, and I think so far I have invested about 10 bill on this character, so it will make back the money pretty quickly, and I'm actually really enjoying my Pathfinder. Now you guys are probably wondering, why do I have a random Pathfinder, and how did it get to level 220 and become a bossing mule? Currently on my account, the main reason why I've been making so many resistance characters is because they share a vac pet. I'm somebody who prefers to play a class if it is able to train with a vac pet, because that's just a quality of life thing that I think I've just been spoiled by. I find it really hard to actually play and motivate myself to train on classes that don't have access to a vac pet. This is why my Wild Hunter and my Xenon have progressed so quickly. I just enjoyed training on them, and the quality of life of being able to pick up meso bags with low effort has been a very key reason why I haven't really made characters or played characters outside of the resistance branch. I did have a marksman and a Lin, like you guys might remember earlier in the series, but I haven't really played them or progressed on them because I just don't feel like training them. So what ended up happening with this Pathfinder was that one of my viewers, Juggy Bear, they were kind enough to donate 100k NX to my account with the intention that I would go ahead and make a Pathfinder. I have mentioned on my stream many times that I have always been interested in playing Pathfinder, but I just never got around to making one. He did allow me to access a vac pet on my explorers and therefore this Pathfinder, and he did also personally request that I build together this Pathfinder. I did go ahead and make a new Pathfinder, and I decided to terror burn it using one of the event terror burnings that they gave us. The main reason why I wanted to terror burn a character was for two reasons, of course. The first one, it does power level to level 200, which is huge. And more importantly, actually, it gives me access to CRA gear. It gives us temporary CRA gear that are 12 stars, and those items are really key for us to try to go for a Lotus and Damien clear as soon as possible. I am currently at about 8.5k Legion, and I did have a lot of nodes ready in my storage for this new character. Once I got to level 200 on this Pathfinder, I immediately opened 1200 node stones on it. It's basically all the nodes that I farmed and held onto in preparation for a hyper burn, but because I really wanted to play this Pathfinder and make it usable as soon as possible, I decided to just open everything that I had in my storage after training for so long. As of right now, a lot of these skills are maxed. Nova Blast is currently sitting at 28 out of 30, Raven Tempest is at 30, Relic Unbound is at 24, which is almost at 25, and of course my boost nodes are maxed out as well. This character is quite strong and heavily overly invested on these nodes, but I'm so happy because these nodes were a very cheap gain and it does so much damage. These skills make bossing a lot more doable, and I have been trying to make this character as strong as possible so that it can do these bosses faster. The first thing that I had to do, of course, was find myself a Lotus and Damien party. I originally was planning on soloing it, but because I was only level 200 at the time, I did take a big damage penalty. I also didn't have access to guild skills, so unfortunately a solo on day one wasn't doable, and even if it was doable, it probably would have taken 30 minutes just to do Lotus, which makes Damien basically impossible as well. Not to mention that I am extremely inexperienced with the class, so I can't really keep my damage up. So what I had to do was ask around to see if anybody was willing to be down to do a struggle run. I asked around in my guild, and thankfully we did find and scrap together a party of 3 of us. It took us about 20 minutes to do both the bosses. All of us were playing on mules with about 1.5 mil combat power. I was probably the weakest at 1 mil combat power. We were able to get a Lotus and Damien clear on the first week on this character. This Pathfinder has been around about 2 weeks, maybe 3 actually, because I have been able to get a lot of its gear sorted, and I would like to show you guys just how nice this character is at the moment. So just starting off with its gear, its accessories and items are looking really sad, but there are 3 pretty important things about it. The first one is that it does have an Absolab weapon. So after the 3 weeks of doing normal Damien, I was able to buy my Absolab weapon, which is huge, and I Star Forced it at 16, and had managed to hit a 3 usable line potential here. I have 1 line of IED, 1 line of attack, and 1 line of boss damage. Typically speaking, you prefer not to have IED, but on a bossing mule, you really can't complain when it comes to just looking for usable lines. Similarly, I have a double prime, IED, and attack emblem here. And for my secondary, it's just 12% attack and 30% boss damage. These 3 items actually are further progressed than some of my other mules. I think even my mechanic might not have this sort of extra damage. So it really was a big investment onto this character. Like I said, I did spend about 10 bill just on day 1, getting a lot of these potentials ready. Of course, we do have some items that have been Star Forced up a bit. I have 3 set CRA here, all of them at 16. I do have the real set. Once I unlocked Chaos Root Abyss, I did swap off of the 12-star temporary gear that they gave us. And of course, you guys can see here, there are a few pieces of Absolab. All of them are also at 16-star with a 1 or 2 line potential as well. This currently puts my Pathfinder at just about 3 mil combat power, I believe. And I am actually able to do a lot of my weeklies pretty quickly on this character. I believe on Lotus and Damien on this reset, I did both of them within 1 set of guild skills, which is awesome. Just being able to clear Lotus and Damien and then the rest of the bosses in about 45 minutes puts this character in a really good speed, and I'm super happy that I got the chance to play this. So thank you so much, Juggy Bear. I know I haven't really been training on the Pathfinder, but this does open up the option for me to play more Explorers. So guys, do keep an eye out on this channel if you guys are interested in seeing more Explorer bosses, because I will be making more Explorers very soon. And as a bit of a spoiler, I am looking into a Dark Knight. So if you guys are looking into seeing me play a Dark Knight, maybe check in once in a while on the channel. Anyway guys, that is pretty much the main updates on this account. I do apologize for not really uploading as much because there really isn't too much to show. It does take a lot of weeks for me to make any progress I can show and share with you guys. But there are a few new projects that I am working on that will most likely get updates soon, I hope. Some of you guys from my stream might already know that I am working on a new Resistance character. I will be hopefully uploading some things about that character quite soon, and I think people will enjoy that. So if you guys want to keep up to date with my channel, please consider subscribing to the channel. And otherwise, if you guys just enjoy my content, please consider giving them a like. It helps me out a lot. Thank you guys again for watching. Take care, and I'll see you all in the next one.